Hi, welcome to the course on zoning for better outcomes. So in this course, we will be talking about right-sizing regulations, specifically zoning, to get to the types of communities that people really want to live in. So more walkability, more livability, and ultimately more inclusive communities so that we can have these places where people can live their lives and it can be very inclusive of everybody involved. A little bit about myself. My name is Christy Dodson. I am trained as an architect and a planner, and I have worked in both sides of that, everywhere from community-wide planning at a citywide level all the way to individual architecture projects that actually work with codes and zoning. I'm an urban designer for a firm called Code Studio located in Austin, Texas. We were founded in 2006, and this idea of right-sizing regulations is really what we're passionate about. We try to understand community character and what that character looks like on the ground so that we can right-size those regulations to bring about that character that's important within communities. And we really look at getting that vibrant, mixed-use, walkable communities, and we focus on things like creative urban infill projects. We want to make sure that those projects are viable and able to be built, and redevelopment strategies to build those walkable, vibrant places. We've worked at the citywide scale all the way to individual areas and writing those development codes and regulations. So that's a little bit about myself. Let's talk about what we're going to cover in this course. So in the first part, we really want to dive into the understanding of zoning. What is zoning? What does it do? What does it control? And how has the arc of history of zoning really shaped how we think about this type of regulation today? So one of the first things we'll talk about is what makes a place a place? What are these elements, the design elements that we need to think about, and how can we regulate those elements once we understand them to bring about these types of communities we want to have? We'll talk about the relationship between planning and zoning because they are two different things. And again, we'll talk about that approach to zoning over time and how we can really bring into alignment these plans we have for walkable, vibrant communities with zoning. The second part is truly about implementation. So we'll be looking at different tools that have been adopted by communities across the United States and that do things like balancing this flexibility and predictability. You'll hear that idea over and over again in this course. We'll talk about best practices for each element of a zoning code. So we'll talk about districts, development standards, uses, and administration. And we'll talk about the relationship between zoning and other development regulations, because we know that zoning isn't the only thing that controls our built environment. There are other regulations that come alongside it, and we need to understand that relationship to be able to write zoning codes appropriately in a right-sized fashion. So now that you know a little bit about me, you know a little bit about what we're going to talk about, let's dive in.